Hey guys, Living Visionary here. For today's video, I want to talk about WandaVision again because I just like that shit. Basically, in WandaVision, I thought that the core themes were really cool, and I wanted to basically talk about that today. WandaVision is like the first Marvel show to come out. Well, not the first one, obviously. There has been a lot of other Marvel shows that come out that aren't fully canon, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or they're just other ones that are just really bad, like the Inhuman show. But WandaVision is like the first canon Marvel show to come out, and it's also good. So this is giving it an advantage over other shows. It has, well, to other Marvel properties. I mean, that's what I really want to talk about. The fact that it's the first show compared to the movies. It has a lot more time to focus on its characters and its themes, and it's very focused on characters that were never fleshed out before properly, and that means they could basically just focus on those themes a lot more than they could before. And one of said themes is focused on grief in basically all the stages of it. And I just want to talk about that, just in case other people weren't really aware of it, because I think just the way they portrayed grief in this is pretty amazing. But before we start, just want to let you know there's going to be a lot of spoilers, but this is a spoiler-filled deconstruction of the show. So if you haven't seen it, then go away and watch it, and then come back. And if you like the video, then consider liking and subscribing the video, because that would be a vibe. Alright, so let's talk about Endgame. Why, you may ask? Well, because Endgame also focuses on grief. To an extent, not fully, but to an extent it does. And it does a fairly good job of portraying grief, but it doesn't do as well as WandaVision. And that's mainly because in Endgame, they don't focus on it for as long. They grieve for a moment that everyone died, and they grieve for literally just 5 years pass. But the thing about it is the fact that the thing that makes it under WandaVision is that it kind of just ends in a snap, In Endgame, essentially, they cry about the fact that everyone died, but then they immediately say, let's go save everyone. And the way to do it is they say, oh shit, we figured out time travel. And they go back in time and they save everyone. And that's just kind of it. They don't really focus too much on that grief and how it really affects people. Except Thor. Thor was the only one they did really good. They did spectacular with his character arc throughout the movie. So I will give them that. It was amazing. That was a spectacular thing what they did with him. But they still didn't focus on it completely, which is why I think WandaVision did it better. I'm not saying that Endgame isn't good because of it. Endgame is still good. I understand why they couldn't focus on it for as much time as they did, because it's like a 3-hour long movie with like 1,000 characters. They couldn't just focus on that. So I'm not saying that Endgame is bad for it or anything, but and WandaVision has like basically have an entire show to work on just like 2 characters. So I'm not saying I'm not saying Endgame is bad or anything. So no one dragged me through the mud because of that. I'm just simply saying, I just want to give my reasons of why I think WandaVision did grief much better. In WandaVision, they focus on the 5 stages of grief. And just in case you don't know what those 5 stages are, I'll catch you up right now. Those 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, I think. If that's like the right order. But those are basically the 5 stages. I'll be connecting examples of all of those traits throughout the show, throughout the rest of this video. First stage, denial. The way that Wanda shows denial is through the Hex itself. The Hex is a complete physical manifestation of her denial. She cannot accept the fact that Vision has died, and she rejects it entirely, so she makes an entirely new fairy tale land where he still exists, and where they have a perfect life. And that's basically where it all starts off with that first step of grief being denial. One way that WandaVision explores denial is when a sword agent is basically sent underground through the Hex and comes out of a manhole. And when the Hex changes him into a beekeeper. And once Wanda realizes that this is a sword agent, and she sees that this person here is a threat to her entire world, the entire world that she has, she just simply says the words, no. And when she does, it quite literally, she just denies reality, and it just rewinds back in time, and it's back to normal, and the results are better than she could have ever hoped. Also, in the beginning of episode 4, Monica wakes up from being dusted. And as soon as she wakes up and finds out that her mother has died, she completely denies that it's happening. The doctor tells her that her mother died 2 to 3 years prior to when she comes back, and she doesn't believe it because it's such a shock that she just took a nap for what she thinks to be 20 minutes, wakes up and her mother's been gone for years. And that is just also just another fact of them exploring the denial. And unfortunately for Monica, since she doesn't have any godlike hex powers, she can't bring her mother back to life. So she grieves the old-fashioned way. The next stage of grief is anger. When Wanda realizes that Monica is a sword agent, she realizes that that's another threat to her world. And seeing that there's a second time that she's seeing that there's like this threat coming in that could basically pop her entire bubble, she gets aggravated. She actually goes into the step of anger, and once she gets angry, she literally shoots Monica Rambeau out of the dimension. She shoots her through houses, through buildings, and it shoots her out of the portal completely, out of just pure anger. And the next time she gets angry is when Sword comes in with an entire drone that shoots a whole missile head at them. And that threatens not only her, but her children. It's basically, they literally try to kill her, and after that, that's when she's had it. And that's when she gets to the point, the very brim, the top of anger. Her eyes glow red and everything, and she's just ready to be out for blood. Which leads us into the next stage of grief, which is bargaining. In the next scene, she goes out with the warhead and she starts bargaining with them. She goes and she says, "If you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you." And after that, she goes back to her children in Westview, and they see that their dog died from eating some poisonous plants. Well, of course we know that, Agatha killed them, but for right now, they think that it died by accident. And her children ask her to bring it back to life because they think that she can do anything, which she can. She made the entire hex. She can control everything. She can even bring the dead back to life, which is basically what she's done. And they ask her for it, but she tells them that they cannot bargain with life and death. She can't just bring everything back. When it's final, it's final, and it's morally wrong to do it, which is hilarious because that's literally what she did with Vision. And at the end of episode 6, when Vision's basically almost dies, she expands the hex to save him and uses up a bunch of power in order to do it. And going into the next episode, she starts losing control of her power continuously. And in a way, you can say that she bargained Vision's life over the control of her own hex. The next stage is depression. After this event, she feels guilty and she decides to go on this quarantine-style staycation, as she puts it. And everyone around her realizes that she's become depressed. She basically just sits around the house all day. She wants to only be alone by herself. This is all a part of her depression, and everyone around her realizes that. Later, when we find out that Agatha has been manipulating the entire situation, she shows her past. She shows her when her parents died. She shows her the experiments under Hydra, and she shows her also her time with Vision. And the latter of those giving us this golden quote.
"But what is grief, if not love persevering?"
After this, we go to the flashback where she finally finds Vision basically dismantled all dead pieces, and she realizes that she can't feel him. She realizes that he truly is dead and there's nothing she could do for him. So she goes to the plot of land that he bought for her, and she realizes that she truly does have nothing left. She has nothing left, she has no one left, and this is her darkest point in the entire show. Her deepest, darkest, where she's fully depressed now, and that's basically what kicks off the entire event and how she created the hex. For the fifth and final step of grief, we go to acceptance. When Agatha releases all the people during the climax of the story, and they all basically tell her that they've been suffering this entire time, she realizes that what she's been doing is pretty fucked up. She releases everyone, well, she tries to release everyone, and she basically realizes that she can't keep doing it anymore. Even Vision says that they're basically gonna fix everything. Like, she knows that she's gonna do the right thing. They all go home. They all basically have their final moments together where she truly accepts that the children can't live and that Vision can't live, and they have their final moments together. Once Vision dies, she fully accepts that he's just gone. They might meet again, there's still hope, but she just fully accepts everything. She goes and she says sorry, and that's when she just leaves. She just goes off and leaves and decides to not do anything like that ever again, hopefully. And those are all 5 steps of grief. And I loved WandaVision because they focused on all of that. You know, in Endgame, when they basically just bring everyone back and they don't even go over the acceptance, which is why they don't really, you know, do grief all that well. But in WandaVision, it's very realistic in a way. It basically, they didn't come back. It wasn't like a, let's save them. It truly was all about accepting that they're gone and basically just, you know, just trying to find your way with being happy on your own. And I think that other stories should follow suit. Like, if you ever want to create a story where you want to craft grief, I think you should just follow a very similar rule of trying to do so and use that as inspiration. And that's basically it for this video. If you liked the video, make sure you upvote it, like it. If you like my content here, which, you know, is fairly new, but we're going to make more stuff essentially about, you know, more storytelling stuff, and we're going to do more reviews on things. And if you like this content, please consider subscribing. If you don't, then, you know, it's whatever. It's fine. But I would love it if you subscribed. And, yeah, that's it.